Ghost stories are probably among the oldest and most widespread of all tales. You could go anywhere on Earth and find ghost stories embedded in whatever culture you're experiencing. They tend to follow a general pattern. A ghost shows up, gets scarier, gets even scarier, gets even scarier, and then the protagonist figures out what to do. Shouts out Siobhan Adcock for that structural analysis. Now, ghost movies tend to follow this structure too, because when something works, it works. However, some take the formula and make it work in fascinating new ways, changing the way that movies are viewed for years afterwards. I'll do my best to select some top-notch game changers for y'all watching today. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're gonna take a look at the top 5 scary ghost movies that changed all the rules. Before we get going, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more phantasmal pictures. Perfect, let's do it. Coming in at number 5, we've got Poltergeist. Come on, this movie is so iconic, sometimes I forget that it really is an actual flick. I've just seen so many movies, TV shows, and other assorted media emulate and parodize it. Poltergeist feels more like a pop culture fixture slash point of reference than anything at this point. Actually, it feels like that until you watch it again, and then it feels fresh and crazy as ever. Like how chilling is little Carol Ann turning back from the static-filled TV and saying, "They're here." Classic. Houses being built on burial grounds, bringing paranormal investigators into the home, heading into ghost realms to save family members, Poltergeist pioneered all sorts of horror mainstays. Yes, other movies and stories had done stuff like this before, but nobody managed to produce as enormous a hit as Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg's collaboration. And while it was made famous for all of its quotable and bombastic scenes, Poltergeist also worked extremely well as a slow burn ghost story. We get tableware malfunctions, chair rearrangements, and of course a tree that comes to life, and that's all just setup. It's hard to imagine a ghost movie that did more for ghost movies than Poltergeist. Now, if only they decided not to remake it in 2015. Ah well, what's done is done. Coming in at number 4, we've got Crimson Peak. Leave it to Guillermo del Toro to totally flip the classic Haunted Mansion story on its head. There are metaphors packed into other metaphors, and I wouldn't have it any other way. After selling the script in 2006, scheduling conflicts delayed the creation of Crimson Peak for almost a decade. When it finally released in 2015, it caught a lot of people off guard, and there are some good reasons for this too. Of course, there's the grand old plot twist woven right in there. If you're paying attention, you can probably catch it early, but the reveal and subsequent craziness is definitely a wild ride. Number 2, it went back to the roots of the most enduring ghost stories, ones written by gothic women. Say what you will, but there's no avoiding the influence of authors like Louisa May Alcott and Edith Wharton when looking at ghastly tales. And did I mention metaphors? Because there are a lot of metaphors in Crimson Peak. Staying 100% true to its gothic predecessors, the ghosts hunting Adelaide Hall are much more than dead folks looking for a scare. The hole in the ceiling of the Great Hall is more than a structural flaw, and the red clay means a whole lot more than potential profit. Crimson Peak is smart in referencing its source materials and presents these ideas with aplomb. It's hard to think of a pretty, more vivid ghost movie too. While many are content to keep the colors cold and blue, Crimson Peak is decidedly, well, crimson. Del Toro does a lot of his best work with ghosts, and it just so happens that his latest phantom flick flipped the specter vision in ways folks couldn't have seen coming. Coming in at number 3, we've got Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice took the relatively self-serious ghost story genre of the mid to late 80s and threw it out the window. I dare you to name a ghost movie half as fun as this Michael Keaton vehicle. Okay, maybe Ghostbusters, but I digress. Tim Burton takes a zany look at ghosthood and what life might be like on the other side. See, where most people assume that ghosts decide to stick around of their own accord, Beetlejuice posits that the soul-sucking bureaucracy is what keeps spirits on the earthly plane. It's a hilarious concept with plenty of potential for both gags and scares. Good on you, Tim. The story is totally off the wall, with a newly married couple accidentally dying after buying a house they didn't really want and being forced to haunt it. Even the hauntings go wrong, as the new homeowners feel that the ghosts could actually be a fun little tourist attraction. Enter Beetlejuice, spelled Betelgeuse, but what's more fun to say? He's mean, he's lean, and he's gonna show you his spleen. Sorry about that. Of course, the titular character is the wackiest part of the flick, causing trouble across the board for anyone who dares to say his name 3 times. I don't condone any of his behavior, but it sure is entertaining. There's something about the mundane ghost universe that I find incredibly amusing. Like, if we were to backpedal a little bit and talk about Ghostbusters again, we would see a world where the ghosts are pretty standard haunts. Like, sure, the ghost-busting squad is full of characters and cool gadgets, but the ghosts themselves act like normal ghosts, haunting whatever place they've set their ghostly butts down in. But in Beetlejuice, we've got this whole ghostly society that functions not unlike ours. The idea that things don't really change in the afterlife is equal parts comforting and mind-numbing. No other ghost movie movie has hit this level of conceptual fun. Coming in at number 2, we've got The Sixth Sense. Say it with me. I see dead people. Bam. Okay, when I say The Sixth Sense changed all the rules, I do mean that it allowed M. Night Shyamalan to make an entire career solely based on crazy plot twists. If that doesn't deserve some sort of recognition, I don't know what does. But what The Sixth Sense also did was introduce the general movie-going blockbuster fan to the idea that the main character can be something unexpected. I won't go so far as to say that Bruce Willis is the villain in this movie, but he's definitely not the good guy we all assumed he was at the beginning. The flick also bends plenty of genres together, creating something unexpected and fascinating. It, of course, is a ghost story, but there's also some thriller and romance elements mixed in to make it all the more compelling. As time goes on, movies become more and more self-aware, more postmodern. The Sixth Sense is a fantastic example of how that was beginning to become more common and more palatable in the late 90s. Movies didn't have to be one thing anymore, and while there were lots of genre benders before, it's hard to deny the influence of a flick like this. And finally, at number 1, we've got Ju-on, The Grudge. Okay, so we've talked metaphors already, but this Japanese slow burn classic takes them to a whole other level. The title can and has been translated to The Grudge. The title, of course, includes the phrase, the grudge, and that's exactly what the ghosts in this ghost movie are. There is no singular entity coming back for revenge. The grudge is born of people's daily violent transgressions against each other. By breaking a loved one's trust or by abusing someone who has never done anything to you, the grudge is born. You didn't ask for it or even know that you had a hand in its creation, but that lasting hatred and pain remains, and there's no getting rid of it either. After Kayako, the original ghost, was murdered by her husband, a curse was left upon the house. Anyone who comes into the abode will eventually be consumed by this curse, propagating it with further violent and hateful actions. Technically, The Grudge is the third installment in the Ju-on series, but the first 2 were direct-to-video. So by releasing in major cinemas, The Grudge changed everything for the series as well. The Grudge takes a non-linear approach to ghost stories too, which has been experimented with further following its release. It's hard to think of a ghost movie that takes as unique and lastingly creepy an approach as Ju-on, The Grudge. Have you seen any of these apparitions floating around your house? Were these entries game-changing enough for your tastes? What ghost movie opened your eyes to a whole other world of possibilities? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more disrespectful ones from the top 5 scary graphic novels you need to read. Jeff Man says, I would love to see a cutest monsters list. I think your matter-of-fact narration and spooky music would make for an amazing video. The only problem with that list is that all monsters are cute. At least, that's what the internet seems to think. The Burclear66 says, while you can't be jump scared by a comic, I do feel like dreading the page turn is the reciprocal of a well-timed jump scare. The feeling that whatever's around the corner on the next page will make your body jump and your skin crawl is always delightful. I couldn't agree more. However, it might actually work against some readers who are a little impatient and feel compelled to flip ahead and dull the impact. Largo778 says, weapons between a blowtorch and a nuke, flamethrower, RPG, stinger missile, and the holy hand grenade of Antioch. How many seconds do I wait after pulling the pin again? 4? Pat Phil says, black hole is what got me into comics. I'm gonna get the cover from the Lizard Queen tattooed on my leg when I have money. Speaking of my future tattoos, Bulby and Stumpy are also planned. Thanks for the great videos. Now, that's commitment. Chris Wake says, I always come to this channel when I have insomnia and need something good to watch. Thanks, Keegan. Anytime, Mr. Wake. By the way, you wouldn't happen to be related to a certain Alan Wake, would you? Just checking. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I eat my weight in unripe crab apples, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more hysterical hits. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.